Thanks for downloading the Beyond the Numbers podcast. If you hear anything you need clarity on or want more information, visit mycampbellandco.cpa. You can also find more contact information in today's show notes. Thanks for listening. And now, the Beyond the Numbers podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Numbers. I'm Randy Cardis. And what happens when your EMR and your accounting system start to talk? Let me start with something slightly provocative. Right now, your EMR knows your business better than your accounting system. Think about that. Your EMR captures every encounter, every CPT, every modifier, every payer mix shift, every cancellation, and every surgeon's case volume by day. It sees the operational truth in real time. But when you walk into a board meeting, what are you looking at? A summarized P&L, a revenue report, an overhead allocation worksheet. Somewhere between the clinical moment and the financial statement, the richness gets compressed. And leadership lives in that compression. This episode isn't about software. It's about what happens when operational truth and financial structure finally connect. Because when your EMR starts talking to your ERP, not through spreadsheets, but through intentional architecture, something shifts. You stop debating what happened. You start deciding what to do next. That's enterprise intelligence. Picture a typical monthly leadership meeting in an orthopedic group. A surgeon says, I added 2 more surgery days. I'm packed. The CFO says revenue's up slightly, but margin's down. And your COO, we're running overtime in therapy and clinic. Everyone is telling the truth, but no one is fully aligned. Why? Because clinical volume, reimbursement, staffing utilization, and overhead allocation are living in different systems and being translated manually. So instead of asking, which service line should we scale, you're asking, are these numbers right? That's not a data problem. That's our leadership drag problem. When reporting requires explanation before it earns trust, strategy always gets squeezed to the last 10 minutes of the meeting. Financial intelligence isn't about having more data. It's about eliminating the translation gap so leaders can move from validation to action. Let's reframe something. Your EMR is not just a clinical documentation tool. It's a financial data set. Inside it lives encounters by physician, procedure mix by specialty, payer distribution by location, payments and adjustments tied to a specific activity, patient volumes by day and by provider, and scheduling utilization patterns. That's not just operational information. That's revenue intelligence. Right now, most orthopedic groups use the EMR for productivity reporting, case counts, encounter totals, but the deeper story, how that activity translates into enterprise economics or financial economics, often gets rebuilt manually inside one of my favorite tools, Microsoft Excel, which means the most granular truth about your business isn't structurally connected to your general ledger. And when the richest data set in your organization isn't integrated into your financial architecture, you're making enterprise decisions on summarized information. Your EMR already knows where margin is forming or leaking. The question is, does your financial system reflect that story? When EMR and ERP don't speak directly, teams build workarounds. Exports get pulled at month end. Finance maps procedures to revenue categories manually. Compensation gets rebuilt in a parallel spreadsheet. Overhead is allocated after revenue is summarized, not tied directly to the activity drivers. It works until complexity grows or until month 3, 4, 5, 6, after year end, you're having to wait for physician distributions. Maybe you're adding another ASC, adding another surgeon, shifting payer mix by 3%. Suddenly, reconciliation takes longer. And here's what I've seen repeatedly. When compensation or profitability numbers require explanation, physicians don't just question the math. They're questioning fairness. Maybe not aggressively, maybe for some aggressive, but subtle. And subtle doubt is expensive. The cost isn't just time. It's the slow erosion of shared confidence in the financial model and the system. And once that happens, growth decisions slow down. Now, let's talk about what changes when integration is intentional. Imagine this. Encounters from the EMR flow into your accounting system in a structured form. Payments and adjustments are tied directly to the procedure and provider that generated them. Patient counts feed operational dashboards connected to staffing cost centers. Location data maps consistently across your systems. Now, instead of summarizing activity and then allocating costs broadly, your financials begin to mirror operational drivers. That's when reporting transforms. You're no longer asking, why did margin shift? You're seeing procedure mix changed, payer mix shifted, utilization dropped into therapy days. Cause and effect becomes visible. And leadership decisions are accelerated because you're no longer debating interpretation, you're evaluating strategy. Let's make this specific because I want to show what it kind of looks like when this is in practice. Revenue per physician sounds simple, but in many groups, it's production pulled from the EMR, reconciled loosely to collections, adjusted manually for timing. When EMR data flows cleanly into your ERP, revenue per physician becomes economically grounded, right? We can see encounters tied to payments. Adjustments are visible by payer. Collections align with production over defined periods. Now, compensation models don't rely on shadow logic. They reconcile. And that matters deeply in physician-owned organizations because contribution isn't just math, it's identity. And as you can see, as I scroll down, we can see a P&L by physician, one that you can actually have confidence in and ultimately receive distributions in a timely manner. When surgeons can see clearly how their activity translates into enterprise economics, compensation conversations shift from tension to transparency. That's going to build alignment. Now, let's elevate this to the service line level. Orthopedic groups are no longer single stream businesses. You have clinic, ASC, therapy, imaging, ancillaries. When EMR data integrates into the enterprise reporting, revenue is no longer just total collections. It's collections by procedure, by specialty, by payer, by location. Now, direct costs can be aligned to activity drivers, not averaged across the entire organization. Overhead can be allocated based on measurable inputs, encounters, square footage, staffing intensity, hours blocks. And that's when you see real margin per service line. And here's the impact. You stop expanding based on anecdote. You expand based on clarity. Enterprise intelligence doesn't just show where revenue exists. It shows where margin truly forms. Labor is your biggest controllable cost. And yet in many groups, staffing analysis happens separately from encounter analysis. When EMR data connects to the ERP cost centers, patient counts and visit volumes can be mapped directly to staffing hours. Now you see which clinic days consistently run over, which therapy blocks are underutilized, where overtime is structural, not incidental. Instead of asking, why is payroll up? You're asking, is staffing aligned with volume patterns? That's a different level of leadership conversation. It's not reactive, it's operationally intelligent. True utilization reporting doesn't blame staff. It aligns capacity with demand. And in tight margin environments with pressures from insurance carriers, that alignment protects profitability without compromising care. Here's the shift. Reporting tells you what happened. Financial intelligence shows you why and what to do next. When EMR data and ERP structure are intentionally aligned, you create a single operating model. Operational data becomes financially structured. Financial data becomes operationally grounded. Month-end closes faster because reconciliation isn't detective work. Compensation models reconcile without parallel spreadsheets, and your board meetings move quicker because credibility is built into the system. This isn't about having more dashboards. It's about having fewer arguments. Enterprise intelligence feels different in a room. Calmer, clearer, more strategic. We don't talk enough about the emotional impact of financial clarity. In orthopedic groups, autonomy and contribution matter. When revenue and margin are clearly tied to activity, fairness becomes visible. High producers feel accurately recognized, and lower producers see objective data, not subjective critique. CFOs stop defending methodology and start guiding strategy. Your partner meetings shift from guarded to collaborative, and something subtle but powerful happens. Growth feels safer because expansion decisions are grounded in integrated truth. Alignment between your EMR and your ERP doesn't just create better numbers, it protects relationships. And in physician owned organizations, that may be the most valuable outcome of all. Would clarity reduce the tension inside your partnership? I bet it would. So, if this is so powerful, why don't more groups do it? I'll tell you why. Because the current system works, right? Spreadsheets reconcile eventually, the close gets done, compensation, it gets calculated at some point, but what's hidden is the leadership time consumed in the translation. The integration sounds technical, so it gets delegated to IT. But this isn't an IT project. It's a leadership architecture decision. Excel is powerful enough to mask inefficiencies for years. I've seen it for decades, until growth exposes the cracks. And by then, the cultural cost, it's higher. The shift from EMR reporting to enterprise intelligence doesn't require chaos either. It just requires intentional design. So let's make this practical. You don't start with a system replacement, you start with structure. Are provider identifiers consistent across in your accounting platform? Do location names map cleanly? Does your chart of accounts mirror your actual service lines? Are exports structured the same way every month? These are architectural questions. Even just alignment will reduce the reconciliation complexity, and over time, your shadow models will shrink. The goal isn't perfection overnight. It's moving from translation to integration, from manual reconciliation to structured intelligence. Here's your internal pressure test. If I asked your CFO to trace a procedure, CPT code, from encounter to margin, could they do it without opening multiple spreadsheets? Could they do it within the system that has drill down capability? If I asked how payer mix shifted profitability last quarter, would that be an instant answer for you? If compensation changed 3%, could you get an explanation within 2 minutes? And finally, if utilization dipped in therapy, would your team be able to respond timely? And maybe the most important question of all, do you and your partners trust the numbers instinctively? Enterprise intelligence passes this test. Fragmented reporting struggles with it. So let me bring this full circle. Right now, your EMR knows your business better than your accounting system. It sees every encounter, it tracks activity patterns in real time, it captures payer behavior as it happens. It reflects utilization instantly, and it knows where volume is increasing and where it's softening. The question isn't whether the intelligence exists. It does. It's there. The question is whether your financial reporting reflects it. When your EMR and ERP begin speaking the same structured language, something happens. You stop reconstructing the story every month. You start leading from it. And that's when orthopedic groups move from reporting to enterprise intelligence. This isn't about dashboards, it's about leverage. When your EMR talks to your ERP intentionally, you gain faster decisions, cleaner compensation conversations, confident investments in new offices and service lines, aligned partners. Operational clarity tied directly to financial outcomes. The orthopedic groups that win in the next decade won't simply collect more data. They're going to integrate it. They're going to have the systems that support that and the partners that help facilitate it. They'll translate operational truth into economic clarity without friction. And once leaders experience that level of alignment, the old way, the manual exports, the shadow models, the reconciliation debates, it all feels efficient. Because at that point, integration isn't optional. It's inevitable. So if today's episode made you think differently about your business, your finances, or your future, share it with a colleague who needs to hear it. And if you want help turning these ideas into real results, connect with me at mycampbellandco.com or give me a call at 352-616-1577. I'd be honored to help you win and help you visualize and see a system that could win for you in the future. With that, thanks for joining. Join me next time where we go beyond the spreadsheets, beyond the chaos, and of course, beyond the numbers.